Hi everyone. Following the crushing defeat of the government's family and care referendums, the government, either unable or unwilling to gauge the public mood, appear to be hell-bent on moving forward with yet another piece of unnecessary and ill-defined legislation, namely the Criminal Justice Incitement to Violence or Hatred and Hate Offences Bill 2022, more commonly known as the Hate Speech Bill. Firstly, let's recap on events to date. The hate speech bill came before stage 1 of the Dáil on the 1st of November 2022 and completed stage 5 of the Dáil on the 26th of April 2023, having been passed by 110 votes in favour of the legislation and only 14 votes against. The hate speech bill then came before stage 1 of the Seanad on either the 26th of April 2023 or the 13th of June 2023. There is a discrepancy over which of these dates is accurate, so I will err on the side of caution and go with the later date of the 13th of June 2023. Since proceeding to the Seanad, the bill has stalled significantly and remains at stage 3 of the Seanad since the 21st of June 2023. What is the reason for this, you might ask? Well, simply put, the proposed legislation has stalled due to the overwhelming public opposition to the proposed new laws, which go back as far as 2019. So, in 2019, the government commenced a consultation on the introduction of hate speech laws, whereby they asked members of the public to submit their views on whether Ireland's freedom of expression laws should be updated or not. Because the responses to this consultation were made public, as is the norm, it was possible for anyone to delve into these submissions to gauge whether or not there was public support for the proposed new laws. And in this regard, Gript Media went through all of the submissions and found that 73% of respondents did not support the government's plan to introduce so-called hate speech laws. However, in true Irish government fashion, the government decided to completely disregard the opinions of the public and steamrolled ahead with what has been described as the most draconian hate speech laws the world over. To understand the significance of the proposed laws, you need to be aware of the material elements of the proposed bill, which include the following. A. The bill fails to define what hate or hatred actually means. B. The bill introduces new protected characteristics in addition to those characteristics already protected under other pieces of legislation, such as the Equal Status Acts and the Employment Equality Acts. These new protected characteristics include 1. Descent, as in descendants, which means references to persons who descend from persons who could be identified by certain characteristics, such as race or colour, but not necessarily all of those characteristics still exist. This protected characteristic is more easily understood as ancestral privilege. 2. Gender, which would now mean the gender of a person or the gender which a person expresses as the person's preferred gender or with which the person identifies, and includes transgender and a gender other than those of male and female. And 3. Sex characteristics, which means references to the physical and biological features of a person relating to sex. C. Section 7 of the bill, which includes for the creation of a new offence of incitement to violence or hatred based on a person communicating material to the public or a section of the public or behaving in a public place in a manner that is likely to incite violence or hatred against a person or group of persons based on their protected characteristics. Noting that the threshold for this offence is intent or recklessness, which means that a person can be prosecuted if they intended to incite violence or hatred, or even if they are simply reckless as to whether violence or hatred might be incited. The penalty for breaching this Section 7 is up to 5 years in prison and a fine. D. Section 8 of the bill, which includes for the creation of a new offence of condonation, denial or gross trivialisation of genocide, a crime against humanity, a war crime, etc., against persons on account of their protected characteristics. It should be noted that Section 9 states that a person may be guilty of an offence under either Sections 7 or 8, regardless of whether they were actually successful in inciting another person to violence or hatred. E. Section 10 of the bill creates a new offence of preparing or possessing material that is likely to incite violence or hatred. This section of the bill is seeking to criminalise people who create content that might incite violence with the intention of communicating it, but who have not yet communicated it publicly. This section 10 further states that where it is reasonable to assume that the material was not intended for the personal use of the person shall be presumed until they prove otherwise to have committed an offence, thereby reversing the burden of proof. And F. The bill creates new aggravated forms of certain existing criminal offences where those offences are said to be motivated by prejudice against a protected characteristic. So sections 17 to 20 of the bill include for updated offences like damaging property aggravated by hatred. There are approximately 12 existing offences that have been updated this way. The updating of these existing criminal offences in essence creates new categories of crime called hate crime. The net effect of hate crime is to create a hierarchy of justice whereby a person who can lay claim to more protected characteristics can claim more justice. So, fresh on the heels of the crushing defeat of the government's family and care referendums on the 8th of March 2024, you might be forgiven for thinking that this government would actually start to listen to the people. Instead, the government have confirmed in recent days that they intend to move forward with the hate speech bill, regardless of the significant public opposition to the proposed laws. In light of this, several people have asked me the following questions. 1. Has the government exceeded the period inside which they could bypass Seanad approval due to the provisions of Article 23 of the Constitution that allows the Dáil to guillotine a bill? And 2. Has the hate speech bill lapsed entirely? So, in short, Article 23 of the Constitution states that whenever a bill is, within 90 days, either rejected by Seanad Éireann or passed by Seanad Éireann with amendments to which Dáil Éireann does not agree, or is neither passed with or without amendments nor rejected by Seanad Éireann within 90 days, the Dáil can pass a resolution within 180 days after the expiration of the 90-day period, deeming the bill to have been passed by both houses of the Oireachtas. It is because of the provisions of Article 23 of the Constitution that the Seanad can merely slow down the legislative process as opposed to stop it. Because once a bill has sat in the Seanad for 90 days or longer if agreed by both houses of the Oireachtas, within a further period of 180 days, the Dáil can simply pass a resolution deeming that the bill has been passed without it actually being passed by the Seanad. This is what is often referred to as guillotining a bill. So the questions that require answers therefore are: Question 1. Has the government exceeded the period inside which they could bypass Seanad approval? To answer this question, we must first deal with the following sub-questions. Question 1A. Has the initial 90-day period expired, noting that this period must expire before the 180-day period is triggered? Answer 1A. Article 23 of the Constitution states that the default period is 90 days, but it also states, or any longer period agreed upon in respect of the bill by both houses of the Oireachtas. So if the 90-day period applies, this period started on the date that the hate speech bill was first sent to the Seanad. As stated earlier, there is a discrepancy as to whether or not this date is the 26th of April or the 13th of June 2023. So I will err on the side of caution and use the later date of the 13th of June 2023, which would mean that the 90-day default period would have expired on the 11th of September 2023. That said, you must remember that Article 23 states that the 90-day period can be extended, so two further questions arise. 1. Has it been extended? And 2. Could it be extended now? Unfortunately, these are questions that I cannot answer. Question 1B. Has the 180-day period expired? Noting that if this period has expired, the Dáil can no longer deem the hate speech bill to have been passed without it actually being passed by the Seanad. Answer 1B. If the 90-day period expired on the 11th of September 2023, then the 180-day period would have commenced on the 12th of September 2023 and would have expired on the 10th of March 2024. So, using these calculations, there is a possibility that the Dáil lost their ability to guillotine this bill on the 10th of March 2024, literally 2 days after the greatest referendum defeat in the state's history. That said, this calculation is completely contingent on the 90-day period not having been extended. Question 2. If the 90-day and 180-day period have both expired, does this mean the hate speech bill has expired or lapsed entirely, meaning that the government would have to start the process all over again, commencing at stage 1 in the Dáil? Answer 2. My opinion is no. It only means the Dáil cannot bypass Seanad approval. But this is a big deal because the Seanad, unlike the Dáil, may actually vote to reject this bill. Some people have suggested that if both the 90-day and 180-day periods have expired, the bill in question simply lapses. However, Article 23 of the Constitution does not appear to say this. So, in my view, the bill can still go through the remaining stages of the Seanad and be passed or rejected by the Seanad, but the Dáil can no longer bypass Seanad approval. Question 3. What happens if the Seanad does not pass the bill? Answer 3. Having reviewed a significant number of acts of the Oireachtas, it would appear that a great number, if not all, acts go through the Seanad in 6 months or less once they have been passed by the Dáil. So the question of the Dáil not having the ability to guillotine a bill does not generally arise. Presumably the government are mindful of retaining their ability to bypass Seanad approval, and for this reason they ensure that all proposed laws that they are eager to enact go through the Seanad before the expiration of the 180-day period discussed earlier. The hate speech bill seems very much to be an exception to this rule. So I do not believe that the government can enact the hate speech bill without the Seanad voting it through, meaning that in this case the Seanad can actually stop this bill becoming law. Further evidence to back up this statement comes from the wording of Article 25 of the Constitution, which deals with signing and promulgation of laws and states the following. As soon as any bill, other than a bill expressed to be a bill containing a proposal for an amendment to the Constitution, shall have been passed or deemed to have been passed by both houses of the Oireachtas, the Taoiseach shall present it to the President for his signature and for promulgation by him as a law in accordance with the provisions of this article. So Article 25 states that only a bill that has either been passed by both houses of the Oireachtas or deemed to have been passed by both houses of the Oireachtas can be presented to the President for signing. And because we know that the period to deem the bill passed expired on the 10th of March 2024, the bill must now actually be passed by both houses. In conclusion, I want to be very clear that I am not an expert in the legislative process or Seanad approval. So I would very much welcome any guidance from any senators as to whether the information in this video is accurate. However, until the information in this video is contradicted, I would urge everyone to contact your senators to express your disdain for the manner in which the people are being treated by this government and to implore them to vote no to the passage of this law. Until recently, I was not a big advocate of the importance of the Seanad, but much has changed, including my views, given the significant role senators played in ensuring that the 8th of March referendums were defeated. And with respect to the hate speech bill, it is quite likely that the Seanad are the last line of defence against the erosion of your right to speak. So again, I would implore you to contact your senators today and tell them to vote no to the passage of this law. Thanks for listening.